Today we discuss about food feeding and process of digestion. Today we discuss what the earthworm feeds upon, what is the food of earthworm, how the earthworm takes the food, and how the food taken by earthworm is digested and is absorbed, and the undigested food is thrown out in which way. We study about all things today. At first, let's discuss about the food of earthworm. The earthworm, it mainly feeds upon humus. Humus means the soil which is rich in dead decaying organic matter. So what we say, earthworm feeds upon dead decaying organic matter. Earthworm feeds upon dead decaying organic matter, and along with this dead decaying organic matter, large amount of soil is also ingested, and along with it, large amount of soil is also ingested. So earthworm feeds upon dead decaying organic matter, and along with this dead decaying organic matter, large amount of soil is also ingested. Now, what is humus? Generally we say earthworm feeds upon humus. Humus means soil rich in dead decaying organic matter. So the soil rich in dead decaying organic matter is called as humus. So earthworm feeds upon humus. Earthworm feeds upon humus. And now here we have to know one term, that is Detritivorous. Detritivorous refers to those organisms which feeds upon detritus. Detritivorous means organisms which feeds upon detritus. And in biology, the detritus refers to the organic substances which are formed from dead body of plants and animals. So what is detritus? The detritus means organic substances formed from dead body of plants and animals. So what is detritus? Detritus means organic substances which are formed from the dead body of plants and animals. Means that it is also dead decaying organic matter. Detritus is also dead decaying organic matter. From these points we came to know that earthworm is detritivorous. Earthworm is detritivorous. Let's write here. Earthworm is detritivorous. Means that it feeds upon detritus, and detritus means the organic substances which are formed from dead body of plants and animals. And now here, large amount of soil is also ingested by earthworm, or earthworm also feeds upon soil. So from this point we also say that earthworm is soilivorous. Earthworm is soilivorous, means that it also feeds upon soil which is rich in humus. Now apart from that, earthworm also feeds upon leaves of small grasses and small insects. Earthworm also feeds upon leaves of small grasses and small insects. So earthworm is omnivorous. So earthworm is omnivorous. Earthworm is omnivorous. Why earthworm is omnivorous? Because it feeds upon small grasses as well as small insects. So from the point of view of food, with regards to food, we say that earthworm is detritivorous, earthworm is soilivorous, and earthworm is omnivorous. The main food of earthworm is humus. What is the main food of earthworm? The main food of earthworm is humus. So this is about food of the earthworm. We have studied earthworm is omnivorous, it is detritivorous, and it is soilivorous. Simply we say earthworm feeds upon dead decaying organic matter. Now the process of feeding. At the time of feeding, earthworm brings its mouth in contact of the food material and the buccal chamber protrudes out, and as the pharynx acts as pump, the food is directly sucked into buccal chamber by pumping action of the pharynx. Previously, while studying alimentary canal, we have studied that on the wall of pharynx there is presence of radial dilator muscle, and that radial dilator muscle by contraction and relaxation makes pharynx act as pump, or simply we say that the pharynx acts as pump due to contraction and relaxation of muscles on the wall of the pharynx, and name of the muscle is radial dilator muscle. So in feeding, at the time of feeding, earthworm brings its mouth in contact of food. At the same time, buccal chamber protrudes out and food is sucked into buccal chamber by pumping action of pharynx. And we have studied the pharynx acts as pump due to contraction and relaxation of muscle. As pharynx acts as pump due to contraction and relaxation of muscles on its wall. So this is about the feeding. Earthworm brings its mouth in contact of the food and the food is sucked like this. Here is the food, mouth, like this the earthworm sucks the food. This is due to pumping action of the pharynx. The pharynx acts as pump and it is due to contraction and relaxation of the muscles. So this is about the feeding. Now we move into process of digestion. Now we read about process of digestion. In process of digestion, the ingested food which is in buccal chamber now passes through the alimentary canal and is changed into simple soluble form which is absorbed by the body. Now previously while studying alimentary canal we have studied that there is no any digestive glands in buccal chamber. So there is no digestive enzymes and no digestion takes place in buccal chamber. The first no digestion takes place in buccal chamber. Now, from buccal chamber, food passes into pharynx. From buccal chamber, food passes into pharynx, and we have studied that in pharynx there is salivary secretion, which is secreted by the glandular pharyngeal mass, and the salivary secretion contains mucus and proteolytic enzyme. It means that in pharynx the food get mixed with mucus and proteolytic enzyme. We have studied at that time the mucus lubricates the food, that means mucus makes the food soft, while the proteolytic enzyme, which is also called as protease, it acts upon protein and converts that protein into peptones and proteases. Okay, now look here, in pharynx food get mixed with salivary secretion, produced by pharyngeal mass, and it contains mucus and proteolytic enzyme. This proteolytic enzyme is also called as protease. The proteolytic enzyme is also called as protease. Now, the mucus lubricates food, means that mucus makes food soft, mucus makes the food soft, and the proteolytic enzyme, the proteolytic enzyme acts upon protein. The proteolytic enzyme acts upon protein which is present in food, and acts upon protein and converts it into peptones and proteases. So the proteolytic enzyme, which is also called as protease, it acts upon protein which is present in food and converts that protein into peptones and proteases. So this is about digestion in pharynx. We have studied in pharynx food get mixed with salivary secretion. The salivary secretion contains mucus and proteolytic enzyme protease. Mucus lubricates the food, while the proteolytic enzyme acts upon protein and converts that protein into peptones and proteases. Now, from pharynx, the food passes into gizzard through esophagus, and we know that in alimentary canal the food moves by peristalsis. Look here, from pharynx, food passes into gizzard through esophagus. So from pharynx food passes into gizzard through esophagus, and what we have to know that food moves by peristalsis. Food moves by peristalsis. Peristalsis refers to movement of substances inside tubular structure due to contraction and relaxation of muscle present on its wall. So what is peristalsis? This peristalsis is movement of substances inside tubular structure due to contraction and relaxation of muscles on the wall of tubular structure. So, this is peristalsis, movement of substances inside tubular structure due to contraction and relaxation of muscles on the wall of the tubular structure or on its wall. So, now the food is in gizzard. From pharynx, the food reaches into gizzard through the esophagus. Now, in gizzard, we have already studied that the gizzard acts as a grinder or grinding machine, and its function is to pulverize, that means to grind the food, convert the large particles of food into fine smaller particles. So, in gizzard food is pulverized by grinding action of gizzard. Gizzard is highly muscular. Its wall contains circular muscle. Internally, it remains lined by thick layer of cuticle, which is tough, and because of the contraction and relaxation of the circular muscle, the gizzard acts as the grinder and the food is pulverized in it. So, in gizzard, food is pulverized by grinding action of gizzard, and this process is called as pulverization. This process is called as pulverization. In place of S, you may write Z. So, what is pulverization? It is process of conversion of large particle of food into a number of smaller fine particles. So, what happens with food in gizzard? In gizzard, the food is pulverized by the grinding action of the gizzard, and this is called as pulverization. This process is called as pulverization, and this pulverization means conversion of large particle of food into a number of fine smaller particles. So, this is about the digestion of food in gizzard. Now, from gizzard, the food passes into stomach. From gizzard, food passes into stomach. Now, we read about digestion in stomach. Now, digestion in stomach. In stomach, we have already studied in alimentary canal that in stomach there is presence of calciferous gland, and the calciferous gland produces chalky secretion which contains calcium carbonate, calcium ions, etc., and their function is to neutralize the humic acid which is present in food of the earthworm. The humus, which is the food of the earthworm, it contains acid, and that acid is called as humic acid, and the secretion of calciferous gland neutralizes humic acid. In stomach, food get mixed with secretions of calciferous gland which contains calcium carbonate and calcium ions, and this calcium carbonate and calcium ions neutralizes the acidic food. Contains calcium carbonate and calcium ions. They neutralize acidic food as food contains humic acid, and the food is neutralized by secretion of the calciferous gland. So in stomach the food get mixed with the secretions of the calciferous gland, and the secretion contains calcium carbonate, calcium ions, and this calcium carbonate and calcium ions, they neutralize the acidic food as the food contains humic acid. Now from stomach food passes into intestine. Now from stomach food passes into intestine. Now here in intestine the food get mixed with the secretion of the intestinal glands. We have studied the secretion of intestinal gland, which is also called as intestinal juice, and this intestinal juice contains different digestive enzymes. The different digestive enzymes are pepsin, trypsin, amylase, lipase, cellulase, chitinase, etc. These are the different digestive enzymes. They act upon different type of food. Now from stomach food passes into intestine, where food get mixed with secretion of intestinal glands, where food get mixed with secretion of intestinal glands, which contains different digestive enzymes. And the digestive enzymes are pepsin, trypsin, amylase, lipase, cellulase, and chitinase. So these are the different digestive enzymes. The pepsin and trypsin, they acts upon protein, while the amylase, it acts upon carbohydrate, or it is responsible for carbohydrate digestion. Lipase is responsible for digestion of fat. Cellulase acts upon cellulose, while the chitinase acts upon the chitin. Now pepsin, acts upon protein. Pepsin acts upon protein and converts it into peptones and proteases. In the same way, the trypsin acts upon peptones and proteases and converts them into amino acids. Now the amylase acts upon carbohydrate and converts it into glucose. In the same way, lipase acts upon fat and converts it into fatty acids and glycerol. So, fat is converted into fatty acids and glycerol by lipase. In the same way, the cellulase acts upon cellulose present in the cell wall of plants and converts it into cellulobiose. In the same way, the chitinase acts upon chitin, which is present as exoskeleton of insects as well as present in some fungi. So, these are the different digestive enzymes which acts upon different type of food. Look here once, the pepsin and trypsin, they are proteolytic enzyme. The pepsin acts upon protein and converts the protein into peptones and proteases, while the trypsin acts upon peptones and proteases and converts them into the amino acid. The amino acid is the simplest form of the protein. Amylase, which acts upon carbohydrate, and converts it into the glucose. The lipase, it acts upon fat and converts it into fatty acids and glycerol. In the same way, the cellulase acts upon cellulose, converts it into cellulobiose, which is further acted by the amylase and changed into the glucose. In the same way, the chitinase, it acts upon the chitin, which is present as exoskeleton of some insects as well as it is present in some fungi. So, these are the simple forms of food: the amino acids, glucose, fatty acids and glycerol. These are the simple forms of the food which are now absorbed by inner lining of the intestine. The villi or the folds which are present in intestine, they help to absorb these food materials and the simple form of food material. And the typhlosole, which is the large size mid dorsal villi lying from 27th segment up to 23 or 25 segments in front of anus. The presence of typhlosole in most part of the intestine make the process of absorption faster. So, these simple forms of food are absorbed by inner lining of intestine and the typhlosole make the process of absorption faster. These simple forms of food, are absorbed by inner lining of intestine. The presence of typhlosole, in most part of intestine, make the process of absorption faster. So, this is about the absorption. Simple forms of food are absorbed by inner lining of the intestine. That means the folds help in absorption, and the presence of typhlosole in most part of the intestine makes the process of absorption faster. Now, the undigested food and ingested soil. The undigested food and ingested soil, they are passed outside through the anus. They are stored for some time in post-typhlosolar region, which is also called as rectum, which is present in last 23 or 25 segments. And finally, the undigested food and ingested soil are passed outside through the anus, and what is passed, that is called as worm casting. So, finally, the undigested food and ingested soil are passed out through anus, and passed outside through the anus in the form of worm casting. Passed out through anus in the form of worm castings. Now, regarding worm casting, in case of Pheretima posthuma, the worm casting is present in the form of a small round ball of the soil. In Pheretima, the worm castings is like small round balls of soil. The worm casting seems like small round balls of soil. In case of what? In case of Pheretima posthuma. And in Eutypheus, the worm casting, it is like tower of soil. With hole at the center. In Eutypheus, the worm castings is like tower of soil with hole at center. So, this is about the process of digestion in earthworm. What we have studied, the earthworm is detritivorous, means that it feeds upon detritus, it feeds upon humus. Humus means the soil which is rich in dead decaying organic matter. Along with this food, large amount of soil is also ingested, so it is also called as soilivorous. So, earthworm is detritivorous, soilivorous. Apart from that, it also feeds upon leaves of small grasses and small insects, so it is also called as omnivorous. These three are the terms which we have to remember. One is detritivorous, another is soilivorous, and another is omnivorous. Now, regarding feeding, earthworm brings its mouth in contact of the food, the buccal chamber protrudes out, and the food is sucked into buccal chamber by pumping action of the pharynx. The pharynx acts as pump due to contraction and relaxation of muscle present on its wall, and the muscle which is responsible for it is the radial dilator muscle. In the process of digestion, there is no digestion in buccal chamber. From buccal chamber, food passes into pharynx. In pharynx, the food get mixed with salivary secretion which is produced by the pharyngeal mass, and this salivary secretion contains mucus and proteolytic enzyme. The mucus lubricates food while the proteolytic enzyme acts upon protein and converts that protein into peptones and proteases. Now, from pharynx, the food passes into gizzard through the esophagus, and the food moves by peristalsis. In gizzard, the food is pulverized, and from gizzard, the food passes into stomach, where the food is neutralized by the secretion of calciferous gland, and from stomach the food passes into intestine, where the food get mixed with secretion of the intestinal gland, which is also called as intestinal juice, which contains different enzymes like pepsin, trypsin. The pepsin acts upon protein and converts protein into peptone and proteases, while the trypsin acts upon peptone proteases and converts them into the amino acid. Amylase acts upon carbohydrate and converts that carbohydrate into glucose. In the same way, lipase acts upon fat and converts fat into fatty acids and glycerol. Cellulase acts upon cellulose, while chitinase acts upon chitin. And these simple forms of food are absorbed by inner lining of the intestine. The folds and the typhlosole make the process of absorption faster. The main thing is typhlosole, which is present in most part of the intestine, and it makes the process of absorption faster. Finally, the undigested food and the ingested soil are passed outside through anus in the form of worm casting, and the worm casting is like a small round ball of soil in case of Pheretima, while it is like tower of soil with hole at the center in case of Eutyphaeus. So this is about the process of digestion in earthworm.